Welcome into another quick episode of Spaceman 2.0 Phoenix Truth Rising show, here to help you grow in the knowledge and wisdom of truth, and the truth will set you free. The best history lesson and spiritual insights on the globe, and exposure of Illuminati's plan is the death knell to the New World Order. So that being said, let's get into a little bit of a history lesson that probably no one has known about for quite a while. But before that, is this the original Spider-Man? Oh, we missed the best part of it. There it is. There it is. Blockchain and Spider-Man hidden in plain sight. So with that being said, back into the history lesson of the world. Besides when it is the best time to invest. So what no man has truly thought about in the last 30 years because of our media never putting this out, but the last great plague upon man, AIDS and related their tools. You are in the time of evolvement wherein technology is proven capable of genetic and DNA tampering to the point of replication of plants, animals, and man. Well, we know that now by cloning. Further, brainwashing has achieved such sophistication as to totally control the mass population and individual persons to the very capability of separating soul from human consciousness. This is unacceptable to Creator. Man is doomed if changes are not brought about quickly and surely. This book is a representation of a journal banned by federal court. We have added the ultimate insult in this offering and made changes in the original presentation to qualify the material. May your reading be guided and the light of realization be your gift. So if you're not aware of what there was going on in the 80s, and I was told when I was just a young one, oh, be careful about doing this and that when you get older because of the spread of AIDS. But where was it created? In Fort Detrick, Maryland. That's a little insight to your graph on when to make money. Not financial advice, by the way. But this is the only truth you need to remember is about Haiti and San Francisco and how it was spread. So if you read that one page, that's all you need to know. Okay, it was given out as hepatitis V vaccines to the San Franciscos and in Haiti as well for another vaccine. And that's how it got started. So this is the two main truths on how AIDS was not only developed by Fort Detrick, Maryland in a military lab, but then spread in San Francisco through what they call the gays, right? Getting a hepatitis B vaccine. And then in Haiti, which is known for a lot of prostitution and such, to spread it. And they gave them their vaccine for something or other. I forget what. Let's read on. How did it get here? The first officially diagnosed case of AIDS was in San Francisco in 1981. Actually, it went something like this. The AIDS virus appeared in New York in 1978 San Francisco and Los Angeles in 1980. It appeared in young white male homosexuals who were between the ages of 20 and 40 and promiscuous in behavior. Simultaneously with its appearance, there was conducted a hepatitis B vaccine study in New York in 1978 and in San Francisco and Los Angeles in 1980 among young white male homosexuals who were between the ages of 20 and 40. You most surely ask yourself if there is a relationship between the hepatitis B vaccine study of the United States and subsequent outbreaks of AIDS in the same population groups and at exactly the same time. Further, this followed right on the steps of the outbreak of the disease in third world areas such as Africa, right? Because Haitians were in Africa, and as Africa and Haiti. In 1970s, West Coast gays, particularly from San Francisco, made Haiti a main playground and vacation spot during that ensuing period of time, thereby being a hit from two directions. Well, how did it get to Haiti? I'm going to tell you, and then I will explain about viruses and why you are in such a devastating predicament. In your mid-1970s, the outbreak of smallpox in Africa was an epidemic and spreading into many other sectors. An organization was created called the World Health Organization. Who's that, right? Which made an all-out effort to inoculate thousands and thousands of people, among which were some 15,000 Haitians who were working in Africa at the time. So isn't truth starting to make a lot more sense now on how AIDS was spread and considered, oh, this is by the gays and by the prostitutes and all this and making Haiti a bad name, but they spread it through that way on purpose. So a couple more pages and then we're done. Just so you can get an understanding of how DNA and RNA can be changed to dilute your immune system. And it's all done in the guise of science. And what is Bill Gates doing now? He has more farmland than anyone else and probably putting into the crops of the potatoes some Vexes and selling them at McD's. Now, before you jump off into accusations of assumptions, let me point out a few things which are readily documented in hand physical fact, and I expect you to do some checking for your own comfort and confirmation about the so-called AIDS virus and viruses. You have some understanding of viruses, bacteria, human cell origin, tissue culture, manipulation of all things within the laboratory. I hereby give confirmation to Dr. Robert Strecker for his simple and most adequate discussion regarding the subject. He has isolated the mechanism and actually knows further the cure and concept. We shall help in fleshing out that which is missing from the present data. In addressing what the AIDS virus is, the virus has a morphology, which is actually a D-type retrovirus. So what are viruses? Some of you people are convinced, and I shall not confuse you. The viruses are the smallest replicating microorganism. That means they are thought to be the smallest replicating organism that require other cells in which to grow themselves. That viruses are not capable of reproducing themselves on their own outside of living tissue is the conviction of the scientists today. Viruses must inhabit other cells for potential growth and reproduction. So you're getting the best science lesson as well, besides history. Bacteria, fungus, and some other organisms are actually capable of growing outside of tissue. In other words, they don't have to inhabit other tissue to reproduce themselves. They can grow on tissue culture plates, such as bacteria. The viruses must grow inside of tissue, which requires that there be living human or animal tissue in which they may replicate. Retroviruses mean that it is a small replicating organism which grows inside of living tissue. So what does that term retro mean? In the case of this particular virus, it stands for the fact that contained within the AIDS virus and other so-called human retroviruses or other animal retroviruses are small enzymes known as reverse transcriptase. That is where the word retro comes from. The reverse transcriptase, which is where the re comes from the reverse, and the tro from the transcriptase. That is an enzyme in the AIDS virus, which actually is responsible for duplicating the genes of the AIDS virus, which are in an RNA form, different from human form. Human genetic material grows in a DNA form. If the AIDS virus is to insert itself into human material, somehow after infection of the cell, what happens is this enzyme duplicates the RNA of the AIDS virus into a DNA form and actually inserts that into a human DNA. The AIDS virus genes get in and are actually duplicated into DNA form, copied by the reverse transcriptase. That information is then inserted into the genetic makeup of the human cell. This is now an AIDS virus residing within the human genes, which then sends out a signal for production of a new AIDS virus. Read carefully, new AIDS virus. So this is not easy to take in, but it is scientific proof that no one is telling you for the last, 80 to 26, 45 years or so. Beyond AIDS, the genetic information of all retroviruses is copied into the DNA form by the reverse transcriptase, inserted into the genes, and subsequent production of new viruses. Let me generalize a bit of the information here for better understanding. Virology is the study of viruses, which deals with tiny living organisms, visible only with the use of the most powerful electron microscopes on your planet, as you now recognize the scientific limitations. Millions of AIDS viruses can easily fit onto the head of a small pin. The AIDS virus is particularly deadly to you humans because of its ability to not invade and neutralize human cells, but the virus' ability to put its own genetic material inside the human cell's genetic structure, thereby allowing the virus to use the human cell as a kind of virus factory, reproducing from human cells raw materials. Now, don't we see a parallel to something that has been jabbery-do, graphene, and it's in pencils and stuff like that, maybe it can come together with magnetic and electric forces. Unlike larger organisms, as with bacteria, viruses do not respond to conventional medical treatments, much like your common cold virus. It cannot be treated effectively by drugs. The difference, however, in its attack is that the immune system is overwhelmed, which I will also present here. So, remember also what it says, and this may be a shocker. AIDS is not prevented nor hardly even impacted by the use of condoms. AIDS is not a venereal disease. AIDS is not a homosexual disease. And AIDS did not come from any monkey bite in far-off Africa. It came right out of man-organized laboratory by crossbreeding cattle and sheep viruses. It will not be grown in a green African monkey. Okay? It will not grow in a green African monkey. And of course, they have a cure, but they won't give it to us, blah, blah, blah. Now, why am I getting into this today? Of course, because of the hantavirus. But it's better to make money, make money, make money. There's your chart up to 2061. Sue me then if it doesn't come to fruition. That's funny. So, are we learning a little bit more about truth? I bet you didn't even know that name, transcriptase. ACE is an enzyme. So a little bit more about the viruses that can run the world that they're putting down on the chemtrails, I believe. So what is virology? A little study of virology. Virology, of course, is a study of viruses. This deals with these tiny living organisms, which happen to be crystalline crystals. Okay, there's truth given out in these journals that you'll never get anywhere else, so please pay attention. I don't do this for no reason. Millions of viruses can fit nicely on a pinhead and dance with all those angels which also fit on a pinhead. It is most difficult to be a virologist because the treatment of virus disease falls outside your known medical capabilities. The AIDS virus is particularly deadly because of its ability to not invade and neutralize human cells, but the virus' ability to put its own genetic material inside the human cell's genetic structure. Now, with this reminder, let us continue. Okay? Because that is the main thing that you need to know. Now, if you think you know all about science, we can get into all of this, all of that, and what they confuse us with the hantavirus and such. So the effect on humans. Basically, the immune system of humans is broken down into two parts. One is labeled B cells after the word, which its full label. You ones love dearly your alphabet. And the other is called T cells. Let us just say that the B cells control antibodies, which control B bacterial infections. T cell systems control the arise of your opportunistic infections, such as the pneumocystis, Carini pneumonia, and Kaposi's sarcoma diseases, which ultimately kill the human entity. You can also lump tuberculosis in the grouping, but there are different methods of curing and controlling some of these other invaders than you have for the AIDS mutant virus. As you recall, it was not always simple to treat tuberculosis, syphilis, etc. It becomes more difficult today for your misuse your miracle drugs and propagate more sturdy and defiant strains of even those curable diseases. So once the AIDS virus infects the human body, it selectively destroys the T cells. And the T cells are a mandatory portion of the human T lymphocyte system. This is your system that assists you in the controlling of cancers, fungus invasions, and other organisms. It is all too complex for Hatton to deal, thereby, for the information is readily available, and this is written for alternate purposes. Okay, having to do with that, fungus as well, like if you put copper wire around your house plugged into the ground with a small electrical charge through the zinc connection, you might be able to reduce bacteria and fungus growing, and that's how barns have been able to stay in for the last hundreds of years properly with a small copper wire exposed for fungus cells to come to its side and die. Hence, copper, colloidal silver, colloidal gold all help kill these things. Not financial advice in any way or health advice. I have to sound silly because I am silly. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I'm just reading a book. The AIDS virus selectively destroys these T cells. Now briefly look at the incidence of these new so-called human retroviruses, which plague you these days. I shall not do this alphabetically numerical system as purely as you would your scientific, but I would make of my point. I believe you and you ones do not coordinately count with Roman numerals. First on the news assembly list is HTLV1, which is responsible for T-cell leukemia. Then HTLV2, which is responsible for hairy cell leukemia. Then the big one, HTLV3, which is the label, the AIDS virus. Now, if you put HTLV1 into a tissue culture, it causes things to grow and proliferate, and therefore you are likely to find the T-cell leukemia. Are we having fun yet with science? If you place HTLV2 into the tissue culture, you will have a hairy cell leukemia develop. Now the big one, HTLV3, whoops, in a tissue culture, this one is not proliferative. It is destructive. If placed in a tissue culture and checked a few days later, the culture would be dead. This is basically what happens in your human species because you are not much more than a walking tissue culture. Suppose you have a human who gets infected with the AIDS virus. The virus will kill off his T4 lymphocyte cells and in turn destroy the thymus gland in all probability and will leave the body immune suppressed, compromised, and open for invasion of infections such as your deadly pneumocystis or pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, or arisal of cancer, most likely in this instance, Kaposi sarcoma. These two diseases are the fingerprints or hallmark of AIDS viruses. Are we getting to have more understanding and interesting coincidences ring a bell to you right now? This is not financial or health advice in any way, by the way, but just look at that. Open for invasion of infections such as your deadly pneumocystis carinii pneumonia or arisal of cancer, most likely in this instance, Kaposi sarcoma. These two diseases are the fingerprint or hallmark of AIDS viruses. That's a little bit scary if you think about it, to think about what's going on in society today. It is the overall picture, however, which is devastating to the human species. Suddenly, there is a contiguous explosion of diseases such as AIDS, but other retroviruses, HTLV1, HTLV2, HTLV3, HTLV4, a relatively new recognized AIDS virus knocking at your door, which is also known as HIV2, and HTLV5. You also have one which Dr. Strecker refers to as 1LL, one lookalike. It is a good label for it, a deceitful mimic of another, like the Antichrist. So we see here, people, are we getting to get the point when they're bringing out the hantavirus now, coming through rats and rat feces and mice? The African green monkey verse truth, right? Everything comes from an African green monkey. Here I shall give Dr. Strecker further confirmation. He doesn't need it, but I wish him to have it anyway. If you look at your planet's animal population and species, most particularly those immediately in your proximity, and evaluate and isolate the viruses which attack these animals, you come up with your answer and your proof that this AIDS disease is deliberate and man-made. You will discover that in cattle there is a virus known as bovine leukemia virus, which is exactly the same shape and identical in appearance to the HTLV1 virus. It has an exact same, okay, only a few more minutes of this, then I gotta go. And we'll get into this another day. But this is the proof of how they made this, okay, and scientists created this from the leukemia virus. Preponderance in magnesium, as well as the exact same molecular weight. It has the ability to produce B-cell and T-cell leukemia in the bovine cattle population and is most proliferative in tissue cultures. If you look at the bovine virus identical to HTLV2, you will find another virus of cattle which has the same exact shape and the same magnesium deficiency. the same basic appearance, the same molecular weight, and produces hairy cell leukemia in cattle. This is just a hypothesis, but maybe if we don't have enough magnesium, we might get these diseases. Now, if you look further back, you will discover a virus known as bovine Virussr virus, which has the exact same appearance as AIDS virus, the same molecular weight, morphology, magnesium dependency, etc. In 1974, either bovine leukemia virus or bovine Virussr virus are producing pneumocytosis carinii pneumonia in one of your higher apes, the chimpanzees. Do not confuse with the African green monkey, but that, friends, is AIDS. You now have HTLV4, which represents a recombination between Virussr and HTLV2, or bovine syncytial virus, which is a new AIDS virus, the HTLV5 virus, and a MER virus look-alike. The simple terms, the AIDS virus attacks and destroys the T cells. Those are the cells within the body of living animals, humans included, that protect against the development of cancers. As such, in persons affected with the AIDS virus, there is T cell destruction and subsequent development of specific types of cancer, Kaposi sarcoma and pneumocytosis carinii pneumonia, the AIDS hallmarks, which are also lethal. There are numerous other deadly retroviruses besides the actual AIDS virus, which are infecting humans and causing cancers, including cancer of the blood, leukemias. These human cancers causing retroviruses, including AIDS, are identical to animal viruses, but not the African green monkey. They are from cattle and sheep, labeled as bovine and Virussr viruses. If I were you ones, I would be very nervous about this time, for you should be most disturbed indeed. So I know no one likes to look at this, but what's plumped to our news is exactly this. Everything about the new Black Swan event coming to lock you down and telling you to go get some sort of jabbery-doo put in you through those that call themselves physicians and through the pharmaceutical houses. Like the Rockefeller took out all the chiropractors and natural therapists and herbologists back in the 1900s to reinforce allopathy, other disease. Allos means other and pathy means disease. So with that being said, Spaceman 2.0, I hope this didn't frighten you today, and I know a lot of you don't want to tune into this type of information, but it is the truth, and I try to tell it in a way that just gets it out, gets you to reflect. But then also think about colloidal silver might help you, so, I don't know about that. But then look at this. Okay, it tells you the highs and the lows. Where are we? We're coming in right about here. Might drop down to 32, 34, 35, come back down to 39, up to 43, back down to 50, up to 53, 53, back down to, what do I have there? Is that a 54? And then up to 61. So I have it continued on. And back down to 66, up to 70, 73, 2073 for your posterity. And we're coming back down into 2077 as a low point. Good time to buy. Then we're going back up to 2080. Oh, look out for 2088, a good high time, going down to 2086, up to 2088, 89, another 2089 from 1989, And we're going down to 2093. It's not financial advice, by the way. I'm just having fun here, going up and down to 2097. Oh, yeah. If you might sell here, you might make some coin. And we're going down to 2104. Good time to buy. Okay. And then we're going to go up to 2107 and pump it up again to 2107. Did I mess up that timeline? I don't know. Because we're supposed to grow. And then we come back down to 2013 and up to 2015. 2115. Sorry, we're at 2115. We come back down. 2120. 2124. 2127. Coming down to 2131. We're back up to 2134. And we can continue on right out the door. If you know the pattern, you don't need to know more. But that's it for your posterity. 144 years of investment market history, 2023 to 2167. Won't be history until you make it and you reflect back. But with that being said, you can live up to 144 years easily. Live to 126. How to live a very long and healthy life. Remember the sodium-potassium pump within your body. As long as you have enough sodium and potassium, your muscles and everything can contract and function properly. And once you know how that recycles within your body, you can potentially live forever. But this is not financial or health advice in any way. This is just to help you understand that these are made by man, like clones done, and maybe silver colloidal will help you out. Not financial advice or health advice. And I do need to set that straight, but do need to point that out. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Spaceman 2.0, and out.